Hi, my name is Charles Beisey, and my partners are Andrew Blair and Hannah Moon. Together we worked on the project Scary Attic, a text-based adventure game. As I said, Scary Attic is a text-based adventure game that is played within a terminal window. The player must navigate their way through an old house, observing and interacting with various objects and their surroundings to uncover the source of strange sounds being heard at night. They will need to problem solve and be resourceful to make it to the end of the game. The game is played by typing simple sentences into a command line, which are then parsed by our program. The player begins in the master bedroom and must interact with their environment in order to unlock more rooms of the house and discover more items which are needed to complete the game. Each room contains a description of the world around the player, and every command entered by the player provides them with helpful feedback, which lets them know if their actions have been successful. The game accepts many verb and noun combinations, and there is a help menu available if a player gets lost. Once the player reaches the final room and has met the two necessary win conditions, the story concludes and the player has successfully completed the game.
Hi, I'm Hannah, and here you can see a quick playthrough of our game. Feel free to pause at any time to read more closely if you need to. This playthrough covers all of the necessary details required to finish our game, but there is still quite a bit more to explore if you'd like to play the game yourself. You can see here we've gotten past the introduction to the game where our player finds themselves stuck in a spooky house in the dark. They can enter simple English commands to move around and interact with their environment. Items can be collected throughout the house and used in multiple ways in order to solve puzzles and progress through the story. Sometimes there are multiple ways to interact with items and objects inside the rooms, and sometimes these interactions will change the environment or reveal hidden items to the player. There are a total of 13 rooms in the house to explore. Each one is unique, and some have to be unlocked through the puzzles in the game. The game includes custom ASCII art to help the player solve the puzzles. While some items can just be picked up, others might require multiple steps to obtain. Every feature included in the description of a room is meant to be explored. Game puzzles are designed to be just the right amount of difficult, meaning they are challenging but not frustrating. Here you can see the attic in the house is too high to reach, so the player has to collect the ladder first to reach the attic. The player will eventually find 3 Polaroids hidden throughout the game. Some are easier to find than others. They are described in both pictures and text, and when you flip these Polaroids over, they reveal a few numbers. And if you combine these numbers, they will give you a code that leads to the house's basement. Once you go in this basement, you're going to find more items to reach the conclusion of the game, and our game will usually accept most commands written in several different ways, so it's not just a strict format that the player needs to adhere to, although there are some limitations. And once they get to the end of the game, they should have a can of cat food and a silver bell, and to win they have to put the food on the dish and ring the bell, and the conclusion will play. Here you can see an overview of our project structure. We have a root directory, which contains our main point of entry as well as our unit tests. The rest of the files are organized according to their purpose. So the language parser folder contains files necessary to parsing user commands. The art folder holds our ASCII art. The narrative folder holds large chunks of story and text files. We have all of the room and item data in their own folders, and save files hold the player's saved games. You can see my contributions to the game listed here. I wrote the story and designed the puzzles with input from my team, of course. I created the room and conditionals classes, which manage the rooms and changing descriptions in the game based on interactions, as well as the room and item data listed here. I implemented the help and inventory functions, as well as functions for using items, hiding, and pulling objects. I also did some game testing, both on my own and with users.
Here are some of the major contributions that I made to this project. I researched, designed, and wrote the natural language parser, which the game used to interpret user input. I created the item class for the game and the JSON template used to make items. I created JSON files to create instances of the room's master bedroom, upper hall, attic, and bathroom, as well as the items ladder, flashlight, and batteries. I wrote the functions to handle the verbs take, drop, open, close, shake, and flip, and I tested the game to identify and fix bugs.
Hi, I'm Andrew, and this is a high-level view of my primary contributions to the project. I create an entry point in the main.py file where the game instantiates itself and starts running, and then it begins the execution loop to get user input. Also create the game class, which manages a lot of high-level game operations, and player class, which maintains the player inventory. I created JSON files with attribute data for building rooms and items. Those are listed here that I worked on. I created action verb functions, which include go, that allows player movement throughout the game in different rooms and up and down stairs. Examine lets players take a closer look at items and room features. Look gives a view of the room and its state. Save game and load game do what they say. Eat lets the player attempt to eat something. I also implemented saving and loading mechanics for the game, and the Python pickle module helped me to do that.
Here you can see an overview of the technology and design choices that we made. After we all looked at the available options for language parsing, we decided to write our own in order to avoid unnecessary complexity. A lot of existing parsers contained way more features than we really needed. So we chose Python for our language since all three of our team members are comfortable with it. We organized our program files according to their purpose because it is easier to manage once a program grows larger and more complex. And all significant text data is pulled from JSON files instead of being hard-coded so that it could easily be edited in one place without diving into the code itself.
Some challenges we faced throughout development and the changes we made to overcome them include handling language parsing. We decided to build a custom language parser to handle our specific use cases without a lot of the unnecessary complexity that open source options gave us. We also changed our approach to updating various conditional aspects of the game. We implemented a condition class that manages attributes of various objects and then changes their behavior as the game progresses. The original way we were going to save and load games was going to be way too complicated, so we ended up using the pickle module to read and write entire object states for player and rooms. There were a lot of smaller adjustments made throughout development, but we always discussed as a team and communicated and came to an agreement. Our game could easily be expanded upon to make it larger. We designed everything so that it could be built upon further with minimal effort. The project repository is also public, and our work is open source, so others could use this as a resource for their own projects or to continue building upon ours. We would encourage others to enjoy our game and to also use it for their own development purposes. The team also agrees that we all learned a lot from working on this game together, and for some, it has sparked an interest in applications which solve problems similar to those that we had to solve here, such as reading and responding to user input as natural language. Thank you for checking out Scary Attic.